My name is Scott McQuilkin, and I'm the Vice President for Institutional Advancement at Whitworth. We host this leadership breakfast well enough into the academic year, but before the snow flies, and we have a terrific panel for you today, Fresh Eyes. So this is a panel discussion facilitated by Whitworth President Beck A, introducing and having a conversation with new executives, relatively new executives to the Spokane area. So we're grateful that you were here and carved out time for this event. You also notice that at your table you have at least one Whitworth employee or student. So we've hoped during the time today you have a chance during breakfast to quiz our employees and students about what is going on campus. I also want to make a few acknowledgments and announcements before we have our invocation. First, to those who put this event together, specifically Max Lammers, one of our major gift officers, Nancy Rao and Nancy Kessler. If we could give them a specific round of applause for all that they've done. And we have a number of civic leaders and elected officials we want to specifically acknowledge today. From the community colleges of Spokane, the CEO, Christine Johnson. And if I could just have you stand, wave, so we could make sure, and remain, if we could, while we just do this. Christine, thanks for President of SFCC, Pam Prager. I don't know if she has arrived yet. Tom Towie, Mayor of Spokane Valley. Ryan Rodin, representing the office of Kathy McMorris Rogers. Thank you, Ryan. Kevin Parker from the Washington State House of Representatives, Kevin. And Spokane County Commissioner Mark Richard. Thank you for being here today. And we always want to make sure and introduce and acknowledge our trustees who are in attendance today. So to my right, Jason Thaxton and Mark Poe, thank you for being here as well. Well, we have a few events on campus tonight, and we want to draw your attention to those on everybody's table. We have our speakers and artists brochure, and tonight there are two events happening on campus, and if you have the time and the freedom to attend, we'd love to see you on campus. The first is a performance in Cole's Auditorium at 7 o'clock by Adelia Barnes, and she's performing a one-woman show called I Am That I Am, Woman Black, and that's at 7 o'clock tonight in Cole's Auditorium. And also on your table at 7:30 in the Robinson Teaching Theater of Weyerhaeuser Hall, Judge Richard Tallman, a federal judge for the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, is speaking, and his subject tonight is the pros and cons of trying the 9/11 suspects in military court versus U.S. federal court. So on one side of campus, theater performance. On the other side, federal judge. If you have any outstanding warrants for your arrest, go to theater and not to the federal judge. And then lastly, we also wanted to let you know that in the spring, moving forward is the Inland Northwest Business Plan Competition, among students in the Inland Northwest. Whitworth's taking a leadership role and working in collaboration with Eastern Washington and the Community College of Spokane. More information will be forthcoming about that business plan competition. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now, for our invocation, let me bring forward Tina Kamkosi. Tina is from Malawi, Africa. She attended Africa Bible College in Malawi. She graduated with a BA in Biblical Studies, and she's currently a student in our and she did a minor in mass communication. She's enrolled in our Master's in International Management program at Whitworth. She is also the president of the Whitworth International Club, and they are hosting their banquet on November 18th. So, for our invocation, Tina Kamkosi.
Good morning. Welcome again to this 11th Annual Leadership Breakfast. It is quite a privilege to stand before you and give this invocation. Before I do that, I would like to tell you about how I came to the United States of America. I came here last year in July, and it's been a year, and it's been a wonderful experience. In Africa, I went to a school called African Bible College, as already introduced, and there I met a missionary family that loved me as their own, and they pretty much became my new family. And they told me about Whitworth University, and I came here through them, and that's really a big blessing to be there. So for our invocation, let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this morning that we can come together and share a meal and hear from each other and also from our leaders. Thank you for being present in all we do and for knowing all our needs every day. Thank you so much for the ability to be involved in useful work and for the honor of bearing appropriate responsibilities. We thank you for these past years in your grace that you led us and you gave us courage to press on. We know that in your faithfulness, you are here today and that you will lead us in your mighty ways. Help us to listen to what is from you in our daily duties. We also have a future that is coming, and we pray that you will help us to see you in a different way. With our human eyes, we cannot see what tomorrow brings. So I pray that you give us fresh eyes that we might see tomorrow with hope from you. May you move in our midst, fill us with your spirit, and make us one. And you have entrusted these leaders with your people and responsibilities. In your gentleness, guide them. In your power, strengthen them. And in your greatness, lift them up so that they might aspire to greater things. It sometimes to be hard to be in a new place, a new company, or around new people. But thank you that everything is possible in your name. And I pray that these leaders will be reminded of your promise in Psalm 32, verse 8, where you say, you teach us, you help us the way to follow, and you watch over us and give us counsel. We pray you bless the meal and also each one of us in this room. As we face each day, please give us fresh eyes that we might see you and reflect your glory to those we lead. Thank you for your presence. I pray all this in Jesus' name, amen.
Well, late this summer, Beck Taylor appointed Rosetta Rhodes to the position of Chief of Staff. And Rosetta previously served as Director of Service Learning and Community Engagement at Whitworth. And I could read Rosetta's resume as she comes up, but instead I'll just bring her forward by saying this appointment was received across campus as, of course. What an inspired choice to have Rosetta Rhodes as Beck's Chief of Staff. She leads, she collaborates, she's responsible for working with Beck to move the agenda of the President's office forward. And with that, let me bring Rosetta Rhodes to bring forward. And while Rosetta's coming up, we could also have our panelists and Beck come forward, and we'll take our spots.
In my role as Chief of Staff, I've had the privilege and pleasure to observe Dr. Beck Taylor, and so I'm going to just tell you a few things about him, and then I will introduce the panelists to you as well. Beck is a catalyst for success. Anyone who knows him can understand that fully. He creates a winning culture at Whitworth, which is inclusive and appreciative of the contributions of everyone. His accessibility extends to everyone. There are no big I's and small U's with Dr. Beck Taylor. As I observed his first year, where he led the university in developing our strategic plan, sharing that vision for what we now call Whitworth 2021, Courage at the Crossroads, the best thing I could say about him is that he has an undeniable capacity for leadership. He's a man of his word, and he leads with a humility of heart. Who can ask for anything better than that? And now I'll introduce the panelists to you. First, we'll begin with Antony Chiang. Antony is the president of Empire Health Foundation, which we will henceforth refer to as EHF. The focus of the foundation is on improving the health of communities throughout Eastern Washington. Prior to working at EHF, Antony was an executive at TechSoup. He was also co-founder of 3 software startups that provide database and web-based solutions to the nonprofit sector. He earned his JD from Stanford Law School and his BS in electrical engineering and computer science from UC Berkeley. Antony has served the community as a volunteer tutor, pro bono legal counsel, and assisted with low-income legal services at the Asian Law Caucus and East Palo Alto Community Law Project. He has served on the board of directors for the Legal Aid of San Mateo County and the Redwood City Friends of Literacy. Please join me in welcoming Antony Chiang. Next, I'd like to introduce you to Jeff Heggedahl, President and CEO of ECOVA. As President and CEO of ECOVA, Jeff is responsible for creating a clear vision for the company as the leader in total energy and sustainability management. Prior to joining ECOVA in 2009, Jeff was president and CEO of Scantron Corporation, a testing and assessment company, sorry, no nesting. Under Jeff's leadership, Scantron doubled its corporate revenues in less than 2 years. Before that, he was the president of the largest division of the Harlan Corporation, in charge of acquiring and successfully integrating a number of companies. Jeff holds a BA in Business and Communications at Gustavus Adolphus College in St. Peter, Minnesota, and an MBA from the University of St. Thomas in St. Paul, Minnesota. Jeff also completed the Advanced Management Program at Harvard Business School in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Please join me in welcoming Jeff Heggedahl. Now we'll talk a little bit about Larry Krauter, director of the Spokane International Airport. Larry stepped into the role of CEO at the Spokane International Airport in March of 2011. Larry was formerly the interim executive director for the Lehigh Valley Airport in Pennsylvania. Before that, he was their director of facilities and planning beginning in 1991. He also served as the airport planner for the city of Columbus, Ohio from 1987 to 1990, and assistant engineer for the Ohio Department of Transportation from 1985 to 1987. Larry received his BS from Ohio State University and served with the U.S. Army from 1984 to 1990. Please join me in welcoming Larry Krauter.
Thank you.
Next, let me introduce you to Lisa Shaffer, who is the Chief Scientific Officer of Molecular Diagnostics, a division of PerkinElmer Incorporated. Before assuming her current role, Dr. Shaffer was president of Signature Genomic Laboratories, a US-based company she co-founded in 2003 that provides microarray-based diagnostic genetic testing for individuals with developmental, intellectual, and physical disabilities. Lisa previously served as professor of molecular biosciences at Washington State University from 2002 to 2008. She also served as a co-director of the cytogenetics lab at Sacred Heart. Lisa earned a BS in biology from WSU, a PhD in human genetics from the Medical College of Virginia in 1990, and underwent training as a clinical cytogeneticist from Baylor College of Medicine. Please join me in welcoming Lisa Shaffer.
Well, good morning. It's good to see all of you this morning. I reflected this morning as I fishtailed out of my driveway that I'm glad we did get this in before the snow, because I think it may be coming. And also reflected this morning on my drive down just how different and how wonderful it is to have a year under my belt. I remember this time last year addressing this group and what a privilege it was. But my head was absolutely spinning as I had only arrived in Spokane just a few months earlier and was really getting my head around the university and the community and what a difference a year makes. It's been a fantastic year for my family and me. I'm happy to report that Julie and the kids and I are settled. We're feeling very much at home in our new community and at Whitworth, and we're privileged and blessed to be able to be a part of such an amazing organization and an amazing community. So on my behalf, welcome this morning to our leadership breakfast. We're glad to have you. If I could just take just a moment to update you on just a couple of things regarding the university, and then we'll get to our esteemed panel. Rosetta mentioned that last year was not only a year for me to get to know the university, but it was also a year for the university to ask itself some interesting questions. Anytime you have a presidential or leadership change, it's often a very natural opportunity for an organization to ask itself some important questions. Who are we? What have we done? Where are we going? Who do we want to be? And how can we best serve those that come in contact with the organization? And that was an inclusive conversation that involved really an opportunity for more than 25,000 individuals to lend voice to the direction of the university. And at the culmination of that process, we launched, as Rosetta said, our 10-year strategic vision and plan, Whitworth 2021. And that plan simply does this. It asks the university to thoughtfully and intentionally consider what are the needs of our students and our communities moving forward in the second decade of the 21st century. Higher education, the landscape of higher education, the landscape of society and our needs and our challenges are all changing dramatically. And how can we, as just one member of a much larger array of institutions that are educating young people, how can we contribute substantially to the development of those young people as they enter into a world with great challenges and great needs, but that needs fresh eyes and clear thinking. And that's really what 2021 is all about. It calls the university to, in many ways, honor our past and our legacy, but also to be different in thinking about the needs of our students in the 21st century. This last 3 weeks has been a whirlwind. We celebrated homecoming 3 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, we had our wonderful Board of Trustees on campus, and last week was Parents' Weekend. And so this weekend, I don't think we have much planned, which is a good thing. Fall break is this weekend, which is much needed. But it was a wonderful opportunity for us to celebrate the university. Probably the most exciting thing that occurred during those 3 weeks was the grand opening and dedication of the William P. and Bonnie B. Robinson Science Hall, a new 60,000 square foot, $32 million science building that combines our health sciences and biology and chemistry education, absolutely transforming the ways in which Whitworth can do science education. If you haven't had the opportunity to be on our campus and to look at that new facility, we certainly encourage you to do that. But as I said, our students and our professors feel like it's Christmas right now because this is a Research One environment, labs that really rival the best labs on the west, in the western part of the United States that are being populated right now by 18 to 22-year-olds for the most part, who are just getting their hands dirty and rolling up their sleeves and discovering what that kind of science education can mean for their development. So that's been wonderful. A great start to Whitworth's 22nd academic year. I would just mention that part of our 2021 planning is to begin to stabilize our enrollment at the university. I think most of you know that enrollments at the university have skyrocketed over the last decade or so. That's been a wonderful thing to happen at Whitworth. It's provided a lot of opportunities and resources for us to continue to push the agenda of the university forward. But one of the things that Whitworth is known for is its relational education. The idea that these students, these bright and eager students, are coming together with wonderful faculty members in small classrooms and relationships both inside and outside of the classroom. And as the university has grown, it has provided some new challenges in executing on that. And so one of perhaps the boldest and most courageous aspects of the Whitworth 2021 plan is to stabilize our enrollment. Currently, we have approximately 2,200 undergraduate students. Continuing studies students and graduate students make up the bulk of the remainder that gets us almost to 3,000 students. But in a world where organizations like Whitworth are trying to grow as fast as they possibly can, Whitworth has decided that in order to protect the quality higher education that we provide and the relational education that we provide, we're going to be stabilizing our enrollment, and we're very excited about that as well. The last thing I would mention is I think other than when the first snowfall is going to be, perhaps the most common question I get now is how good is the basketball team going to be? As you know, our good friend Jim Hayford left us to go to Eastern Washington University, a great opportunity for Jim as he went to the Division I coaching ranks. But in his place, we have hired a wonderful new head coach, Matt Logie, who came to us from Lehigh. And Matt joins an already stellar coaching staff across the university that really contributes to very successful athletics programs. You may know that Whitworth has one of the top Division III athletics programs in the country, consistently ranking in the top 10% of those programs. And just yesterday, I saw that our men's basketball program was ranked 12th in the country. So they aren't discounting us too much because of that coaching change. So we always invite you to come up to North Spokane. I know it feels like a long way from here, but it's not. I drive it all the time. You don't need a passport. Come up and visit us. We would love to have you at many of our events, not only our Speakers and Artists series, but also many of the other events. One of the questions that I most often get is, so what do you think about Spokane? After being here a year, a little bit more than a year, what are your perspectives? And as I had the opportunity last year to dream a little bit with you during my talk here about what Spokane could mean, particularly in the context of Whitworth, this year I thought it would not only be good to hear my perspectives, but also to hear the perspectives of other relative newcomers. People who are looking at Spokane with relatively fresh eyes. Leaders within our community, our corporate community, our nonprofit community, who are looking at Spokane through other perspectives, perhaps, than many of us have who have lived here for a while. I think that's useful. One of the things I often encourage new employees at Whitworth to do is to keep those fresh perspectives, that fresh lens, on as long as they possibly can so that they can continue to ask really good questions about our organization. We have an incredible panel, as Rosetta introduced our panelists. And so this morning, we're just going to have a conversation with these relative newcomers about how they view Spokane and our region and a number of other issues. But as you're listening to their responses to a number of different questions, I would ask you to be thinking about some questions you would have for these panelists. Toward the end of our time this morning, I'll ask you to raise your hands, and if you have any questions for our panelists, we'd be happy to take those as well. So again, it's wonderful to have you this morning. This panel is going to be a lot of fun, I think, and so we'll dive right in. And Lisa, we'll start with you, and we'll move down the table. Is both personally and professionally, how have your first years in Spokane either met or exceeded or been different from the expectations that you had before you arrived? And so, Lisa, I'll start with you.
We arrived in Spokane in actually 2002, so I think that I've been in Spokane longer than any of the other panelists here, but our expectations were quite high as far as livability, because I grew up in the Tri-Cities, and for those of you who also maybe grew up in the Tri-Cities, don't you agree this is a better place to live? There's no reporters, right? No, I mean, I had a great childhood in the Tri-Cities, but my husband and I went to Washington State University, and we would spend weekends in Spokane and knew that this is where we wanted to eventually settle. Took me a while to get back here, but I knew that this is where I wanted to raise my kids. So although I had my children in Houston, so yes, they're Texans, we wanted to move back to Spokane. What far exceeded my expectations was the welcoming that I got by the business community here. I wanted to start a company, and I didn't have the first idea on how to do that. I'm a scientist. And the businesses here, including Surrey, Sacred Heart, all really welcomed us and taught me everything I know about business and how to put this company together. When we first got here in 2002, we needed to get funding for our company, and we met with angel investors and venture capitalists, and where we got our money was from Sacred Heart and from PAML, and they were the best partners that we could possibly have. They had the infrastructure to help us grow very quickly. And so I think overall, Spokane's exceeded my expectations.
Good.
I think that for me, everything has been exceeded. The interview process that I went through, I was interviewed by about 40 people, and when I came into town, and some people said, "Wow, that must really be exhausting," and actually, it just really energized me. I was interviewed by elected officials, business community leaders, and actually employees of the airport and the senior management staff of the airport. So the process that was created was extremely and extraordinarily thoughtful and engaging. And so for me, I already came in with very high expectations as a result of that process, and a high level of energy and enthusiasm for working with all of you and working with the employees of the airport. And so from that perspective, the bar was set very high back initially. As far as a personal experience, it's been really wonderful to get to know the people that I work with, also all of you. I've made a very significant effort to do a lot of outreach in the community, and I've met many of you. I can look at almost every table and see someone that I've talked to or someone I've interacted with professionally. My family and I are very happy in the Spokane region. We are just amazed with the natural beauty of the environment and the welcoming atmosphere, as Lisa talked about. We have just been overwhelmed in a wonderful way by the reception that we've received. My wife is very happy. My daughter is very happy and adjusting well. So to be very honest, it was a fabulous move for me and my family, and just very, very excited to be here, and very high expectations both for professional and personal life here.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it was a great question that I was pondering, because when the opportunity to take on the position here in Spokane first came up, actually the first time I met the recruiter in San Francisco and told my wife about it, and she's like, "Oh, that's great. Where's the foundation? Is it Hewlett Foundation, or is it Omidyar, one of the other tech foundations?" Like, "Well, no, it's based in Spokane." And her response is, she looked at me and said, "Where is that?" And so it was actually quite a challenge to persuade the family to come up to Spokane. So everyone asked me this question for the first couple of months, and I kind of teased people, and I said, well, the good news is Spokane has greatly exceeded my family's expectations. The bad news is the bar wasn't very high. But very similar to the other panelists, on the professional side, I'm really blessed with an opportunity. I mean, I have a dream job. My job is to wake up every day, and I have to figure out how to invest the community's resources to help make people's lives better. I mean, I couldn't ask for a better opportunity. So on the professional side, it has just been astonishing. And to be in a community and have an opportunity to design a philanthropic organization literally from the ground up is pretty much, from our point of view, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So professionally, it's just been incredible. And then on the personal side, I'll just, again, my wife, she was born in Chicago. She's only ever lived in LA, San Francisco, and Manhattan. And so to come to Spokane was quite a change. And I remember one particular moment back, it was actually at the beginning of summer, and we have a 5-year-old daughter. And she was playing out in the front yard with some neighborhood kids. And the two of us kind of, in a panic, looked at each other because we hadn't seen her for about 45 minutes. And then we realized, oh wait, it's okay. She can play outside and we don't have to have an armed guard on her. And so one of the things that has just been incredible about moving from an urban environment to Spokane has just been this incredible quality of life for raising a family. And it's just been something we didn't realize what we were missing until we came here.
I'm actually here for one reason and one reason only, and I'll share a little bit about my personal background. You'll understand. So my wife has a busy career and spends a lot of time in Europe, actually in Switzerland, where we have an apartment for when she's here. And I'm here because since Larry's on the panel, I'm lobbying for nonstop service from Spokane to Basel.
You get right on that.
Based on our discussion this morning, I think it sounds like we're going to be successful with that. So I'll likely be the only person on the plane, unless I'm traveling with her. No, from a very similar, we've lived in primarily larger cities, so this was a big adjustment to consider coming to Spokane. And I would say both from a personal perspective as well as a business perspective, it's been the most pleasant surprise. And I'll actually start with the business piece of it. What a city like this affords you that's different than Atlanta, LA, Minneapolis, other places that I've run businesses, is that we've got an incredibly well-educated workforce that's available to us because of great universities like this. And we also have a base of people that many of them would prefer to build a career here if they can find a company that can give them a career path that meets their needs. So it's much more loyal, much less transient than other places that I've run businesses. And I actually think on a personal level you see that as well. I've been amazed at how open and welcoming the community has been on a personal level. From a business perspective, it's a wonderful place to run a business, and we're really happy to be here.
That's wonderful. Well, that's certainly been our experience as well. I, on the personal side, have pointed to just the kindness and warmth of the Spokane community as we got around and did important things like get driver's license and register our cars and access other public services. Just really enjoyed that people behind the counter there, as well as the supermarket, would actually talk to you, look at you in the eye, and that was wonderful. And then from a professional standpoint, one of the things I love about Spokane is that as I get around and interact in the business community, I see many of the same faces on a very regular basis. And that increases the level of accountability that we have. When Rich and I see one another on a very regular basis, or Stacy and I see one another on a we can ask one another, hey, how are you doing on X, Y, or Z? Or how are we following up on the initiative that we've all viewed as being very important? And that level of accountability, I think, allows us to get more done in a community where it's tight-knit and we see one another on a very regular basis. Well, you all have been quite gracious at commending the Spokane community, but as with any community, there are a number of things, I'm sure, in your first years here that you've said, boy, if I could just blink my eye and snap my fingers, I sure wish I could change that. What one or two things might you change, if you could, if you had the power to change, about our community? And I'll start with you, Larry.
Oh, thanks, Beck. Well, I know this will be a shocker that we're going to talk about transportation infrastructure. I think that there are some just wonderful fundamentals in place in our region, but I think that if I could have my wish come true, Beck, it would probably be that our transportation infrastructure would be significantly upgraded. As you know, the American Society of Civil Engineers evaluates these things, and of course, Spokane is a reflection of the greater United States and the problems and the struggles that we're having in maintaining and upgrading our transportation infrastructure. So when I see the wonderful fundamentals that are in place and the significant upside that I truly believe we have here, I just look at that transportation infrastructure element of it and say, boy, I think we could really be hitting some home runs if we could get some things moved forward on upgrading and increasing our capacity on that side of things.
Great. Antony?
Well, I have to admit, when I first heard the question, my immediate thought was, how about the length of winter? There was a moment last winter where I was just like, okay. Is it spring yet? Did we have a spring?
It was on a Wednesday, I think.
But more seriously, I think one of the things that I appreciated about coming from the San Francisco Bay Area that when I reflect upon about a year and a half, not quite 2 years here in Spokane, is new engines of economic growth for the area. And I think one of the things that I really, again, it's one of those things you don't quite appreciate it till you never had it or until you leave it is, I went to Cupertino High School, which was the heart of Silicon Valley, the home of Apple. Steve Jobs just passed away, so a lot of Apple in the news lately. And one of the things I guess I didn't appreciate as much when I was in Silicon Valley and in San Francisco was the real sense of innovation and vibrancy that comes from a real culture of entrepreneurialism. And it's just a standard, accepted part of both personal and professional lives that, thinking about how to create. And, I think that Spokane enjoys just so many incredible qualities that we reflected upon on that first question. But one of the things that, if I could, snap a finger and change and just kind of layer into the mix here in Spokane, that I think there's certainly a foundation for it, but I would love to see it take it to the next level, would be that spirit of entrepreneurialism and innovation that I think gives an incredible sense of at least vibrancy in the San Francisco Bay Area that I think could really benefit Spokane. And speaking from a philanthropy point of view, we're really strong believers in sort of what's called the social determinants of health. And so many of the really tough health issues facing the region are directly correlated and tied to economics. And so many of the dials that we want to move are directly tied to economic dials. And so again, if I could just snap my finger and change something, it would be to add new engines of growth.
Great. Jeff?
Yeah, good point. On the weather, I'm actually one of the rare people. I grew up in a small town in Minnesota. I came here for the nice winters. So I wouldn't want to change that. I know a place that can be worse. And then I'm crazy enough to still keep a lake home there. So there's that. I actually agree with Larry on the transportation and infrastructure. We've really got to keep an eye on that. For a company like Ecova, and I say that because I'm still getting used to that name. It's a week old for us. Some of you might know it as Advantage IQ. For a company like Ecova, we have 60% of our customers are east of the Mississippi. And I literally have dozens of people on airplanes every single week going to see our clients, serve our clients, and build new clients. That infrastructure is really important. I think we've got to keep our eye on maintaining it and finding ways to grow it if we want to compete with some of the other communities. And then the third thing, which is more of a macro, we have employees now in 32 states. We have 575 employees here in Spokane, 950 plus nationwide. And this unemployment rate of 9+% is really hurting us all. Again, if I could snap my fingers and find some way for us to work on that. I actually feel personally responsible. I look at it as there's 950 employees and their families that, as the CEO of Ecova, I'm here to serve and to make sure that I'm building a place that they can have great careers and take care of their families. But
so I live up in Colbert, and so I have to deal with that every day in my commute. But my longer answer is that I think what is amazing about this region and starting a company here are our 4 universities. We hire most of our workforce directly out of the universities. We don't expect anyone that we hire to know how to work with arrays, let alone know what a microarray is. So we train all of our workforce at Signature Genomics, which is now part of PerkinElmer. I have gone and spoken to all of the 4 universities because what we're seeing is that the students, what we need are students coming out of the biology programs. And what we find is the way that our brains are built, it's those people who tend to like to go into biology tend to not like the physical sciences, mathematics, and even computers. Well, what we do at Signature, everything is computer-based. And what we're looking for are students that have a very broad discipline now in biology, who want to work at the bench, but also are comfortable in front of a computer. So this is what's really important to me. And so I'm also working with the Meade School District with their STEM education program, because I'd like to see students come out of both high school and universities much more well-rounded. I tell my own kids, so I start at home with my preaching, and I tell my own kids that no matter what discipline they want to go into, I'd like to see them take business courses, if not even major in business, even if they want to become a physician, because they may run their own practices. They need to be able to read the financial books. And I've learned the hard way. I wish I'd had a background in business or some exposure to business, which I didn't have at all. So this is important for the colleges to recognize, is to have the depth you need in the science, expose them to all areas of science, and also give them the business experiences as well.
Yeah, thank you. And there are certainly things that we can do at the local and state levels that affect our economies, but many things are outside of our control. I know today is a very important day for us who are watching the European markets and what's going on there. Over the next 12 to 24 months, how do you expect the regional and state and national economies to impact your specific businesses? And what are you doing to prepare your organizations for the opportunities and challenges that will come over the next 12 to 24 months as we, in all likelihood, continue to struggle to climb out of the current downturn that we're in?
For those of you not as familiar with philanthropy, you might be surprised that we keep a very close tab on economics. almost all private foundations are endowed, and so we are significantly affected by the markets. You may not, at least I was not as familiar, but certainly in the 2008 downturn, the average loss of foundations and endowments was about 40%. Mm-hmm. So if you think about that, that means their grant level budgets also went down 40% at a time when their grantees needed more help. So we keep a really close tab, and we're significantly affected. And so we're affected on both sides, right? So our resources go down as the economy gets hurt, yet the demand for our partnership goes up. So we get a double whammy. And as far as how we see economics here locally, we see it as being pretty flat, frankly. We don't see a lot of drivers right now to significantly increase the local economy. One of the things that the foundation is making a significant investment in is in the acceleration of the growth of the four-year medical school. And we're keenly interested in making that significant investment primarily because of improved health outcomes and for the pipeline of primary care physicians into the region, especially into the rural areas. But we also see the incredible silver lining of it being one of the few, we think, very compelling opportunities for growth to the region. And there's been so many folks, GSI and other, the higher ed community and others here in the community that have worked on this for quite a while. And we're just fortunate to come along and complement with some resources at just the right time. So it's definitely, every time, for example, the state legislature is heading into another session here to figure out another $2 billion in cuts, we're gearing ourselves up for another wave of folks coming to the foundation and saying, we're not going to be able to serve this thousands numbers of patients because they're now going to cut this program for the region. So ironically, you think, oh, you're in philanthropy, you don't have to worry about the economy. We worry about it constantly.
Yeah, at ECOVA, we're actually doing quite well in this economy, and there's a reason for it if you think about it. We work with about 142 Fortune 1000 companies, and the work that we do is actually helping them with what's number 4 or number 5 expense item, which is their energy consumption and costs. And most companies through the last few years have cut all the other costs that they could, in some cases to the bone, like headcount and those sorts of things. But the one place that even some of our most sophisticated large companies in the country have not done as good of a job as they could is managing their energy consumption. So we're helping them reduce their costs. In one case with Nordstrom, where we actually remotely manage their lights and their heating and cooling, and can take their costs down from 10 to 30% of where they were at, and that recurs. So there's a real need for the kind of service that we have. At the same time, some of those Fortune 1000 companies are hurting. Blockbuster, unfortunately, was a client of ours. Most of our clients are not opening more buildings, which helps us grow our business, so that's actually impacting us the other way. But we're just working real hard to make a difference on a cost that a lot of companies have not focused on. The side benefit is we have some incredible environmental impact we can make by helping them reduce that consumption. And so we get it a little bit both ways, both helpful and where it's hurting our business at ECOVA.
Yeah. We started offering testing in 2004, and from 2004 to 2009, I mean, we grew exponentially. It was incredible, the amount of growth, and of course there's challenges with that. Since 2009, all of our revenues are derived from sample volumes that we get from all over the country, so we're a large reference lab for the whole country. We were the first lab to offer the kind of testing that we offer for children with developmental disabilities. So we have two challenges now. So in 2009, our volumes flattened out, and the two challenges are, one, the economy, and the other is that we, whether it was something smart or not, we haven't determined yet, went around and taught other labs how to do this technology. Well, now we have competitors. So it was a good thing that we taught others how to do it, but it did, they do take some of our volumes from us. Since 2009, our volumes actually continue to decline, which has been very difficult for me. And so what we're doing then is now, we had a very narrow focus in the kinds of genetic testing that we did. Now we're expanding our menu. So we're expanding the menu in hopes of capturing additional volume. So now we do cancer testing. We do prenatal diagnosis for pregnancies that have abnormal findings by ultrasound. So by expanding our menu, I'm hoping that we can either maintain or actually grow our volumes. One of the impacts to the state economy has been that Washington State Medicaid has decided not to pay for our test. So it's very, very unfortunate that here we are, a company in Washington State, and we cannot accept patients that are on state Medicaid. So this is very troubling for us. Mm-hmm. So reimbursement's been a big issue for us. Unfortunately, although we make diagnoses for children with developmental disabilities, many times there's not a cure. We're providing answers to families so that they know why their child is having problems. But because there's not a cure associated with these problems, insurance companies are reluctant to reimburse us. They want to see outcomes. What difference does it make? Well, it makes a huge difference to the family, but the insurance companies want to know what difference does it make medically to the patient. Yeah. So reimbursement from third-party payers has also been difficult.
Yeah. I'm kind of in a unique situation, Beck. I've got all my customers here today. And they see what I see, which is that as oil continues to be volatile, the airlines are continuing to struggle with how to manage that problem. The only tool that they really have at their disposal is to control capacity. Mm-hmm. And as a result, the airlines have begun to reduce capacity across the domestic systems. And that obviously has an impact in communities our size particularly. And as Jeff pointed out, at a time when his company is really needing to be on the road and continuing to work hard to build business, we have the same challenge of retaining the amount of capacity and the number of seats in our market that we can have the airlines offer at a time when the airlines are looking to reduce capacity. And it's at a point where it doesn't even, you can't even appeal to a rational business model a lot of times with the airlines, because they recognize that they could make money in the market, but they are just not willing to, again, increase that capacity. So we are in a serious competition with the same size communities across the United States for those seats. And I think that the example that I would give is that we've tried to innovate and are going to continue to innovate in our approach. And one of those new innovations is the Small Community Air Service Development Grant. That was written about in the Spokesman a couple weeks ago. We have applied for and received a grant from the Department of Transportation in the amount of $950,000 for us to use to develop nonstop service to the LA Basin, which we all know we could very much use. It is the largest underserved market that we have in the Spokane region. Over 300 passengers per day each way. That's a big number. And so we're going to be embracing the business community, looking for forming new types of partnerships to raise a matching share for that grant, and also look at recruiting the airline to serve that grant. And of course, Jeff was asking me this morning, which airline is it going to be? I can't tell you yet this morning, but I can tell you that there are several airlines that have expressed interest, and we are looking forward to continuing our discussions. I would just say that because of the volatility, it does require us to really look at our business model at the airport. And many airports across the country are run on a public utility model. And my direction at the airport is going to be to convert that really to a business model. So we will be looking at reorganization. We'll be looking at how we conduct our business, the products that we offer to all of you as our customers. And so I think it's actually, even though it's a difficult time, it's a very exciting time for us, and a great opportunity to innovate and to deliver things for this community from a business development perspective, and also just all the way down to the individual customer service. So I'm really excited, actually. I think tough times bring about really great opportunities for change. So even though it's tough, it's really exciting.
Let me ask you, if you have a question for our panelists, if you would raise your hand high, and as you stand, if you would just speak loudly and introduce yourselves before you ask the panel. And if there is a question to a particular panelist, if you would also mention that as well. So Anybody have a question?
It was amazing, actually, to me, that when we started Signature Genomics, we thought we were going to be this tiny boutique lab. This would be the last test you did after you ran out of all the current diagnostic tests. And in fact, in a very short period of time, it became the first test. And the American College of Medical Genetics actually published guidelines on the workup of a child with developmental disabilities and recommended that the kind of testing that Signature does is actually the first test you do before any other test, because we're so comprehensive. We're looking at the human genome, so we're looking at changes in our DNA. And so it's a very comprehensive test. And so, and what comes out of that is that you identify the child's problem very early so that they can get the services that they need, and they do get into early intervention sooner.
In fact, a member of our board runs a packaging manufacturing design firm, and he recently told me that over 50% of his business is international. And talking about the transportation infrastructure, he's on the road probably about 50–60% of the time as well. And so the growth of their firm has been through that global demand for their services. And I think one of the interesting things is coming especially from perspective on the healthcare industry and how the foundation was formed as well, is that I have noticed, it might be anecdotal, is that as businesses grow and succeed, in fact we have one here at our table, right, that those companies then get acquired by larger companies that are outside the region. And so you know, sometimes those strategic directions are, decisions are made that are not necessarily in the best interest of the region or the community. And so I think we see sort of a double effect there, right, that not only are our markets significantly influencing our opportunities for economic growth in this region, but also that same effect is that that globalization of the economy is that when they come and find promising new businesses here in Spokane and the region, then you know, those executive management decisions are then starting being made outside of the region. Mm-hmm. So I think we see sort of a double effect there.
That's good. And we're trying to formalize that in our organization as we continue to grow. You know, just 4 years ago we were 550 employees and now nearly 1,000. I think some help on how we actually formalize that and giving some opportunity for some of the students to get some experience before they go out when they're entering this economy. They're going to want to have some tangible experience, and we're not going to take on more than we can handle because we want it to be first a good experience for the student, and then that it's helpful for the business. But some help in formalizing that, I think I wouldn't turn down a phone call on how we could put some structure together on that. So I think that's one way.
I agree with Jeff. I think some of the best conversations I've had with the universities has been when they've reached out to me, which is unfortunate, but we're all sort of have our tunnel vision, we're doing our day job. But we really welcome those partnerships with the universities and having those discussions, because we know the training that we need for our workforce, and we're happy to share that with the universities and hopefully incorporate some of these ideas into the classroom.
And one of the things that I think we need to do a better job of, and I'm working on that now, is to make sure the community understands that we have the university presence that we do. And so I've been working very hard to make sure that the visibility of the university system here in the Spokane region is reflected properly at the front door of our community. So I've been working to bring a little bit more visibility and hopefully some more emphasis on what we offer, so as people are coming back and forth in their travels, they see Whitworth and they see the other, the other gems that we have here in higher education. So that's the role I think that we're playing, and obviously as we grow our business, we'll have opportunity to do some of the things that Lisa and Jeff have mentioned, particularly workforce development training as well.
Well, this has been an inspiring morning. I often say that as a university professor and an economist and now a university president, one of my chief roles is to be an optimist, not only about the students that are in our classrooms, but about the communities that we serve. And I think we all have a lot of reasons to be optimistic this morning, particularly as we hear from 4 wonderful voices from our community who are relatively new, who came here because of the opportunities that exist here in our region. And so I think we have what it takes in this community and in this region to succeed. We'll do it on the backs of these leaders as well as you all in our community, and I remain very optimistic about Spokane and our business community and our philanthropy community, our education community, and all that we have to offer. So let's give a warm round of applause to our panelists this morning. Thank you.
I'm bringing forward Cheryl Vaughter, who is the Associate Vice President for Enrollment Services, Graduate and Continuing Studies. As Cheryl comes forward, Whitworth Continuing Ed program does, can do, and continues to do and educate business professionals in Spokane. So we'd like to, for the briefest of public service announcements, to tell you what we do in continuing studies and graduate education.
Has anyone seen that monument sign on Spokane Falls Boulevard? Yeah. That's an indication of Whitworth's commitment to providing education where it's needed. And one of the places it's needed is in that downtown district. And so it's a monument. We're here to stay, and we want to offer educational opportunities to working professionals. Because while we have a highly educated population, we also have an undereducated population in that last time I looked, it was less than 30% of the adults in the working world in Spokane have a bachelor's degree or above. So Whitworth in the evening is here to offer programs, whether it's undergraduate or graduate, to professionals, to working people. And we do that by making it possible for them to go in the evening, even though they work full-time. They're really busy. We do everything, including deliver books to them in the classroom, because we know that it's hard to get to school after you've been working all day. So we offer everything from an MBA, an accelerated format MBA. Again, you show up, the books are there, and you get to learn from the best. And we're also starting a bachelor's degree in the criminal justice administration field. Again, another area that we were told we need some professional development, so we're going to start that starting in January. But as you go out into the community, remember Whitworth and what it can do for your profession, for your organization, for your staff and associates. I look out and I'm seeing people who've taught for us, because we want to bring those who are good practitioners into the classroom. And I also see a lot of graduates of both our undergraduate and professional programs. They're out in the community and you can find them anywhere you go. And have you seen those mortarboard billboards? Any with those funny things on them? Okay. We're not going to run out of things to put on those mortarboards anytime soon, because those represent the dreams of people who didn't have the opportunity to get the education that they wanted. And so we're going to keep those mortarboards going, we're going to keep the awareness going, and we're going to keep offering the Spokane community a way to fulfill a dream, get that promotion that they want, and maybe even change their minds about what they want to do when they grow up. So spread the word and come visit us in the U District, because we're here to stay. Thanks.
On your tables, remember those speakers and artists brochures. Tonight, Adelia Barnes in Coles Auditorium at 7. Judge Tallman at 7:30 in the Robinson Teaching Theater. Just a week from now, our award-winning jazz ensemble will perform in Coles Auditorium with Josh Redmond, one of the top 2-3 saxophonists in the world, will be performing with our jazz ensemble. A month later, it's our choir performances in Spokane. Part of the weekend will be in Seattle, so we're hopeful we can see you on campus for all of those events. Last year, I'll close this way, and I'll do it again this year. We had a faculty secretary named Vic Bob, who used to always conclude his faculty minutes by saying at the end, and everyone went somewhere else. And it is now that time for everyone here to go somewhere else. Thank you for coming. We'll see you again on campus, and we'll see you again next year for the Leadership Breakfast. Thank you.
They did good. I thought the conversation was good.